It's bow time. Some classics never go out of style, like fresh egg, American cheese, and hickory smoked bacon on a made-from-scratch biscuit. But why stop there? Paired with crispy bow rounds and an iced coffee or medium drink. Your morning deserves a breakfast that has it all. From the fluffy egg and crispy bacon to the melted cheese and, of course, a legendary Bojangles biscuit. That's the ultimate breakfast combo. Order in the app or at Bojangles. It's bow time.
Yo, Trojan family, what's going on? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB Network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, live from the Dyrud Dojo here on USC's campus. Spring practice number 6 has just wrapped up. Another beautiful day in Southern California. Just a couple news, notes, observations for you from practice. We were able to speak to Lincoln Riley and a number of defensive players after practice. All of those interviews are up right now on the USC LF YouTube channel, so you can check that out for yourselves. But a couple notes. So going into practice again, we just get to view the individual period. So we're usually out there between 15 to 25 minutes max. Usually it's more in that 15 to 20 minute range. So not a whole lot we can see during this period. But when it comes to the return game, and Lincoln Riley actually talked about that in his press conference after, about, obviously they had Zachariah Branch 2 years ago. Last year, Mekhi Lemon handled return duties. So another new year with a new return man, and really emphasizing, hey, they have a lot of talented players that can do it, but who's going to be the guy that, A, they feel the most, comfortable and confident in terms of ball security and decision-making, but also who can give them some explosiveness and who can actually advance the football and flip the field a little bit and maybe even take one to the house that we haven't seen, since Zachariah Branch back when he was a true freshman. So, because Mekhi Lemon was phenomenal in terms of the former, in terms of confidence, ball security, decision-making, but he didn't necessarily give you just that juice of flipping the ball. Not that he probably didn't have the ability, but obviously, he was focused on other parts of the game as well. But they're looking for who can be that next great return guy. And right now, I've mentioned this, I think, last week, but today you had, again, on the punt return aspect, Trent Mosley, you had Kendarius Reddick, and then you had Terrell Anderson. So previously I'd seen Rock Hill catch some punts. We'll see if that was just him taking the day off from that, or if he'll be back in that, or if they've kind of whittled it down to those three. So Trent Mosley has been my kind of front runner expectation, just based on his explosiveness that we saw in high school. But certainly D. Reddick and Terrell Anderson can add to that as well. So I think a lot of talent in the return game, and something that we saw Nebraska with Mike Eckler as their special teams coordinator really improve last year. And they were one of the most dynamic return teams in the entire Big Ten. So it's certainly something to watch for there. One other little note, little nugget, if you will. And I hadn't noticed this before. So I don't know if this is something that I just randomly noticed today, or if I just had missed it previously. But Judea Abasari, played defensive tackle since he's been here at USC, going into now his junior season, listed as a defensive tackle on the official USC roster, was going through individual drills today with the defensive ends room and Coach Sean Nua. So not saying it's a position switch necessarily, but I think to me, it says two things. One, that this new Gary Patterson 4-2-5 scheme along the defensive line is going to, have some versatility chess pieces in that. And a guy like Judea Abasari is certainly a versatile guy that can play inside or outside. So can Jakeem Stewart. I've talked about, in the recruiting world, a guy like Marcus Fakatow, they could certainly line up all across the defensive line. So Judea, I think, can do that. He may not have the elite speed of like a Cam Crawford or a Braylon Shelby, or, even like a Luke Wayfull that's coming in as a true freshman. But in certain play calls, certain packages, I think he certainly can play that edge position and seal the end there, in certain downs and distances. So it could be more of a just, hey, we'd want you to learn the aspects of both rooms because you can play both. We'll see if it ends up being, hey, he's just ultimately moved to the defensive end room long term. So Noticed that today during the individual drills. Again, we won't really know what it looks like in like the team atmosphere, team aspect until kind of later on down the line, if that switch does officially happen, or if it's more of just a versatility play, which is a player like him, I think, can certainly do that. So yeah, that was just a little note there on that. And then, yeah, just more, good competitive to see. I've mentioned before, I love watching Trevon Reed coaching with the defensive backs or the cornerbacks specifically. Today really working with the likes, well, I mean, all of them, but kind of working more of those rub kind of routes a little bit on how to, come back to the football. I know a lot we talked last year about, hey, the defensive backs and the corners specifically were always in such good position. You talk about DeCarlos Nicholson, Marcelles Williams, and they were sticky on the receiver, but for some reason there was just that struggle of like turning around and maybe you'd have 4 interceptions on the year. Like they were always right there, just could never quite get their head turned around in time for interceptions. They did have some pass breakups and PBUs in that regard. So kind of working on drills like that, and someone like a Rock Hill we've talked about, just so advanced as a freshman. I think it was after practice today. Was it Prophet Brown? I think that he said he's the most advanced and talented freshman he has ever been around since being here at USC. So high grade remarks. It's not just all talk and smoke that we've been putting out to you guys. Jaden Crowder as a true freshman. Trevon Mead made a comment. There was almost the entire Santa Margarita coaching staff was here, including USC great Carson Palmer and Lenny Vandermeid. They were all in the house. Jaden Crowder in those drills, remember the corner from Santa Margarita, they ended up committing kind of late and is kind of almost the forgotten corner in this class, but a super talented one from a really good defensive scheme. Trevon Reed, made the comment, someone got some good high school coaching. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but clearly a guy that is coming in a little bit more ready than maybe, not saying USC guys, but just in general, some other players that maybe don't get that level of details taught to them at the high school ranks. And Coach Fafita, defensive coordinator at Santa Margarita, obviously one of the best defensive minds in high school football here in SoCal. So you're seeing that with Jay Crowder, and you're seeing that with Samoda Katawanga and some of these other defensive guys coming in. So saw that from the cornerback room. Safety room. I've mentioned this before. This was mentioned yesterday. I forgot to mention in my recap when we talked to Corey Sims, and I asked specifically, like, who's a defensive back that you're seeing kind of stand out and really, playing well on that side of the ball. And he immediately mentioned Isaiah Rubin. We've talked about a bunch of different guys in that safety room, rightfully so. But Isaiah Rubin, low sal product, local kid, kind of flown under the radar. He is one that it seems to really has been picking up this scheme and coaching from Paul Gonzalez and Sam Carter really quickly. And not saying he's going to be your starter yet. We're still way too early for that, but certainly a name that has been brought up now a couple times through spring camp as a guy that's really showing out. And then last name I'll throw out that I had heard from others during practice that we didn't view that had a really solid practice is true freshman Madden Riordan. I love this kid's story. Obviously, Pasadena kid where I'm from, and played some great high school ball. Finished up at Santa Margarita, and one of the longest tenured commits to this USC class. And his dad has said this. He said this, like, it didn't matter who was coaching, what position coach. Like, he just wanted to be a USC Trojan and couldn't wait to get here. And stuff I heard is he had a phenomenal practice today, and that safety room is wide open. But with someone like a Christian Pierce missing spring, there's a lot of reps to go around for these guys. And so guys like Madden Riordan, guys like Isaiah Rubin that maybe we would have been looking at before are getting a lot of invaluable reps over and over again for the spring where they can really elevate themselves, and then going into fall have kind of that upper leg for guys coming back, either from injury or that just missed some time. So look for Madden Riordan, another a player that I think is making a name for himself in spring very early on. Trying to think. Last little tidbit, like I said, we talked to Lincoln Riley. Nothing really new, groundbreaking, no real injury updates there. So you can, listen to just his conversation up on the channel. We did get to talk to for the first time new defensive line transfer from Michigan State, Alex VanSumeran. I thought he was a great interview. If you want to go check that out, I mean, you can tell he is your classic Midwestern football dude. Just loves ball, loves playing defensive line. I asked him for those who don't know, like, what does he bring to this defensive line? And it's really just a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience and a lot of production in the Big Ten. You're not getting some productive guy from, a G5 conference or, the Mountain West conference, something like that, that's going to has production, but has to make that jump once they get up here. No, he's been in the Big Ten. He played against USC last year at the Call-In. He's played against Ohio State, against Michigan, against Penn State, and just has elite production at this level. So he brings all of that. And he mentioned, bringing that to here, not just to help the team, the defensive line, but to help groom and train the young guys in the room, and mentioned Jamian Winfield and Jakeem Stewart and guys that he can just impose his knowledge and experience on, so that this room is as prepared as possible once they get into, not just league play, but once the season kicks off. So check that out. I thought Alex VanSumeran was awesome. Like, it's just one of those guys you talk to and you're like, this is just a football dude. This is a dude that just loves ball and, just has that Midwestern swagger after playing his entire career up until now up at Michigan State. So good stuff here from spring camp number 6. Tomorrow, I will be back for USC's Pro Day. So no spring camp tomorrow. We have Pro Day tomorrow. It is going to be a loaded Pro Day, and it'll be the most media centric and the most, NFL scouts, GMs, coaches since Caleb Williams' Pro Day a few years ago. So, you have Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, Kamari Ramsey, Eric Gentry, go to the list of just a ton of dudes that are going to be showing out tomorrow here at USC. So I'll be back for that, covering that. And then I'll be back on Friday for spring camp number 7. So loaded week here for you at USC LAFB, which as always is presented by our friends over at FanDuel. Make sure to check out FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Jade Mayava plus 2,700 to win the Heisman. Love those odds. Get on that at FanDuel Sportsbook. But that's going to do it for me here at USC. Hope everyone enjoys your Wednesday. We'll be back with plenty more later this evening. Some recruiting updates. I was going to do it yesterday, and I don't think I ended up getting it up now that I think about it. So some other visitors that were here yesterday, some new recruiting visitors that were here today, specifically like running back Jeremy Adeyanju was here from Arizona, a guy that I think is going to ultimately be the running back commit for USC. But I'll talk on that a little bit later this evening. So be on the lookout for that, the latest USC LAFB recruiting update. So until then, everyone, appreciate you. And as always, fight on.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.